It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the UMBC head softball coach, Coach Chris Kuhlmeyer. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Brandon. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in collegiate softball?
Um, it's I had a weird journey like getting into the sport. When I was a student at LSU, I was actually hoping to play baseball there, but in the mid '90s and everything, they were looking for skinny, fast center fielders and catchers. They were looking for guys that could hit homers. So I was blessed enough, to be able to help as a student, be in the right place, right times, start off as a student manager and helped start the LSU softball program back in 1996, and been a blessing for that and been in it ever since. But it was during that time, a few years into it, that I would transition from wanting to coach, maybe coach high school baseball and be a baseball coach, maybe look at college baseball at some point or whatever, to, what, I think I have this is where I want to be at. I felt like very blessed to be in the position I was in, and felt very like this is where God was, leading me down this path, and just been very blessed to be in it ever since then.
What was that like, obviously, getting into the LSU softball and studying sports management?
Yeah, it was great. Like the program was just awesome, and I didn't even discover it until I was like a couple years in. Actually, I was actually a physical therapy major, and then my grades weren't good enough my freshman year to stay in physical therapy, and all that. But then I went into business, and then I discovered that this, talking with some of the football players and like some of the baseball players that I gotten to know, about they were in this major, and I was like, oh, this is perfect for me. I could totally. This is exactly what I want. I want to get into like coaching, but I also like to know a little bit about, all the back end stuff of, sports, and like from a management standpoint, the human standpoint, and the marketing standpoint and everything. So it was a great major, and I enjoyed it, immensely. And it was, you definitely know when you every day you get up to go to class, you're like, you maybe don't feel like it, but I got up every day to go to some of the classes and everything, because it was like this is what my passion was. I love sports and got to study about sports just in every aspect of it. So it was great.
How did obviously studying in sports management help you to become the student manager for the LSU softball program?
Um, it didn't necessarily help me with like necessarily being the student manager there. Actually, um, the way I got into softball was I just happened, like I was actually still a business manager. No, sorry, a business major, and I just happened to take as part of the curriculum, I needed to take like an activities course. So I just happened to sign up for a softball slash track and field activities course, and it was right around that time that they hired the new softball coach, and to start the program and everything. And it was just her and like one other person, her assistant at Nickel State, that she brought up with her. And they asked the head coach to teach this class, the softball portion of this class, and to like do it and everything. So she decided to do an activity. She was going to teach theory, because none of us had heard of fast pitch softball in the South, like where I'm from. None of us ever seen it. None of us ever heard it. We thought it was slow pitch, and so I got to talking with her, like after classes and everything, and we just started. And I told her I had this passion for coaching, and I wanted to get into baseball and everything. And then one day, a couple of months into the class, she just looked at me and she goes, "Hey, what do you think about you know getting into softball and fast pitch softball, learning about the game, and being and coming to be a student manager for us?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's great. I would love to learn more. I would love to be involved. I love sports. I want to get involved in." So that's what I did. It was just me and her and one other assistant, and then Glenn Moore, who's now the head coach at Baylor, who's been the longtime head coach at Baylor, came on a few months later onto the staff and everything, and that's how I got into it. It was one of those things where if it wasn't for that, taking that one class, I would never even known about the sport and never got into it. And I'd just be probably living in Louisiana as a high school baseball coach someplace.
Of course, what was that like, obviously leaving LSU to go to Baylor to get a full-time assistant coaching job?
Yeah, it was definitely a leap of faith. I At that point in time, just I was a I had just gotten out of college, and I had spent a year as a volunteer assistant at LSU, and then Baylor came in and hired the staff away, and I was still a volunteer assistant, and I'm like, do I want to go to grad school and get my grad degree, or do I want to like take this leap of faith and be a free assistant and move 8 hours away from my family and everybody, my girlfriend at the time, everybody I know, and and get in and really get into this. And after talking with Glenn Moore for a while, praying about it and everything, we decided like, yeah, this is what I want to do, and took that leap of faith and went over there, and it was the best decision I ever made. I love Waco. Baylor was awesome, and just to be more involved on the day-to-day basis of everything, even though I had to do a lot of extra work just to make money to support myself and everything. Just to be able to get in more into the day-to-day working of a program and everything, and seeing several great coaches, Glenn Moore, Mark Lumley, who's no longer with us, unfortunately, Brittany Sneed, just seeing how they do things and learning from them was awesome.
Of course, during your time at Baylor, what were some of the things that you learned about the program and about collegiate softball?
I really was able to dig deeper into the, just more of the strategy aspect of the game. And like, I would like sit there on Mark's coattails like all the time and just listen to him teach hitting and listen to how he like talked to the girls, and like how he was like, he had different ways of speaking to one girl to the other, just so he can get his message across about like what he want them to do, what he was trying to accomplish. And I was able to sit in all the recruiting meetings and listen to how they talk and evaluate these players. And when we had camps, we would have post camp meetings and talk about evaluations of those kids post camp and all that stuff. And I was still able to, from a small, little bit, was able to see some of how the management side of it works, like travel and do all this and all that. I was responsible for some different travel stuff here and there, and everything, and in charge of like our booster club and everything. So it definitely gave me the opportunity those 2 years to really set myself up for success for the future.
While at Baylor, what were some of the things that you learned from a big time program and getting to the College World Series?
Um, definitely the work it takes in order to be successful at that kind of level. Because Division I is a beast. It's everybody's the best of the best. It's a grind every single day, and really learning how to not only practice the way you need to and the amount that you need to, but also keep it fun. Know when to like read the room and know when you need to give the girls some extra time off and all this stuff. But just to see like the way you have to compete every single day, just with yourself and with your teammates to be that good, because you're going to play Oklahoma, you're going to play Texas, you're going to play LSU, you're going to play all these big time teams, what that looks like and the type of athlete you have to recruit and train in order to be able to compete with those teams.
Of course, as a new coach coming into obviously collegiate softball and being at Baylor, what was that like going to those elite programs like LSU, Texas, Oklahoma to see those programs and how they grew?
Yeah, it was awesome. Being able to get into college softball when I did, and back in '96, that was the boom of collegiate softball. It's like SEC started, like the Big 12 was getting going and everything, and just to see the growth from there till now has been amazing. But like at that point in time, just being at LSU and being around all those big time coaches in the SEC, and then going to Baylor, being able to play against Patty Gasso and seeing how she runs her teams, and competing against them, and just they won their first national championship while we were at Baylor and while we were there, and they were really good and they kicked our butt pretty good that the one, especially one of those years. But be able just to see the different type of coaches and playing against different big time people and big time programs and how they do things, the philosophy on who they recruit, the type of athletes that they have, and to centered around their own, philosophy of how they want to do things from an offense and then the defensive standpoint and in the circle and everything. Like be able to talk to Mike Candrea on several times and be able to talk and, pick his brain, to Patty Gasso, to the coaches of Texas, and just, a lot of different people, even the assistant coaches. I was able to talk to like a lot of the hitting coaches, like who were just assistants, to be able to like pick their brain about hitting drills and like how they set up their practices and everything was invaluable.
How did obviously your time at Baylor helps you to get in your first head coaching job and going to Belt?
To Belmont, yeah. So I went from Baylor. I was an assistant for 4 years at Samford University in Birmingham, and then I was an assistant at Wichita State for 3 years there. And being able to spend 7 years as a full-time assistant like that at two mid-major programs under two different, completely types of people, two completely different styles, and be able to take what I've learned from LSU and from Baylor, from Glenn Moore and Mark Lumley and them, and taking it to one place and taking it to another, and just seeing so many different philosophies was able to help me grow and help me create my own philosophy of things and how I would want to do it, and then see what works for these people, but it doesn't work necessarily the way I would want to do them, which is perfectly fine. We had great conversations all the time about, well, when I become a head coach, I don't know if I would want to do it this way because that's not who I am. It's not my personality. And now as an assistant, I'm going to do it whatever way you want and all that stuff. But like, that's just not how I will personally end up probably doing it when it comes to that point in time. So it definitely was like just an incredible blessing to be able to work under Beanie Ketchum at Samford for all those years, and the responsibility she gave a very, very, very unproven young coach. Just all that responsibility she gave me as a hitting coach, recruiting coordinator, and travel person, all that stuff, and be able to go to and take that and go to Wichita State and work under Mike Pernicero, who's the head coach in Indiana State right now, and seeing the way he's one of the best hitting coaches out there, and be able to just see how he does his practice every day, and just the philosophy he had in recruiting and how aggressive he was. It was a lot of things I was able to take with me to Belmont and be able to help shape my own philosophy of things.
Of course, once you got to Belmont and you became a head coach, what was that feeling like becoming a head coach for the first time?
Scary. Honestly, it was awesome. It really was. Like, to get the opportunity to be a head coach at the D1 level was just an extreme blessing, and it was awesome. And was something I had worked those, what was it, 7, 8, 9 years to get to that point, and being able to get there was amazing. It was scary because taking over Belmont at the time was one of the 10 worst programs in Division I softball. And we had to like totally revamp everything, like from a recruiting standpoint, we had to revamp like just everything from it, like it just totally changed this program around and totally turn the culture around. They just didn't have a great history, didn't have a great culture, a lot of different things. And, we didn't have a lot of success the first few years there, just because a lot of kids, even in the state of Tennessee, didn't even know Belmont, even though they were Division I, they didn't even know they had a softball program. And this was coming from like some of the bigger players, bigger programs in the state and travel ball programs. They didn't even know Belmont had a softball program. So we fought an uphill battle from the very beginning to like really get into those programs and try to get those kids to come to our camps and like learn about us and everything. And so it was a struggle those first few years, but we really got, after a few years, we really kept going and got better and better and better every single year. And we were able to finally, towards the end of my tenure there, we were able to get the Gatorade, state player of the year as a pitcher. Instead of like, we out recruited her to come to us over like several high mid-major schools, and even some small Power 5 schools wanted her. We had a lot of kids from California to Texas and everybody coming to little old Belmont and Nashville to come play for us and everything. So it was an amazing experience, and I don't regret any of my time there. I love that place, and I still love that place. The place gave me a chance to be a head coach for the first time and really shape my own philosophies and how I do things. And it was great to, even after that time, my time there was over, and I went over to Miami of Ohio, be able to look back on what was great about it and the things I did really well, and be able to see the things that we didn't do so well and what we failed at, be able to, step back and see that and make those lists and be able to like, okay, when I know if I ever get this opportunity again, this was what worked, this is what didn't, this is what we need to fix the next time that, this opportunity comes around.
Of course, at Belmont, what does it feel like to obviously become the winningest coach in history at Belmont?
It was a cool thing. I was the longest tenured coach at that time, and I think I still was the longest tenured coach in the program history. And even though I will say this, we didn't have quite all the way the success that we would wanted. Like our last couple of years, we were pretty, we did pretty well, but it still came with a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And like I said earlier, we had a huge mountain to climb. But I take pride in that. I think what we did at that school, like changing the culture, changing everything about how they perceive softball at that school, set that program up for success for the future. And you see now, like right after I left there, the coach that they brought in, they had a tremendous amount of success. The next coach has come in after him, has had a tremendous amount of success as well. And I think our time there, we then needed that time to set up that program to be a very well-known, successful mid-major program.
What during your time at Belmont, how was it like obviously getting to play those in-state teams like Tennessee and Lipscomb?
Oh, Lipscomb was a great rival of ours. We had the Battle of the Boulevard since they were only 2 miles down the road. Actually, I used to run when I had some time off. I would run from my office down to their softball field and back, and it was a 4 mile run. And so we had the Battle of the Boulevard with Lipscomb. So great battle, great people at Lipscomb. There's still some of my friends that I still see when I see out recruiting or at convention, everything I talk to all the time. But we had some knockdown, drag out battles with those guys every single year, and they are a very good program, very well led. It was awesome to be able to play Tennessee, even though they kicked our butt. It was still awesome to play them, and like great rivalry with Middle Tennessee just down the road in Murfreesboro and everything. We go play Memphis. Of course, Austin P and like Tennessee Tech were in our conference there in state, and we played ETSU over in the eastern part of the state one time when we were still in the old ASUN conference. It was great. Like the state of Tennessee has a ton of great softball programs. It's got great softball all across the state, but like their college teams are all led by really good people and are all like just very competitive programs. And we had like at the time when I was there, of course, there's some different coaches there now here and there, but we all had a really good tight knit community as far as coaches and like people we can call and talk to whenever we wanted, if we needed something. We could all help each other out. Even Tennessee, like even the weeklies at Tennessee, like whenever I needed something or they wanted to come play us, they would hook us up with like, help us with a bus or give us pizzas for dinner. So we didn't have to spend extra, budget money and all this other stuff. So, and they were very they were very open with their time and their help and everything as well.
How was your time like at Miami, Ohio, becoming the assistant coach?
It was amazing. Like I needed a good reset after Belmont. I needed to go. I loved being able to go work for somebody that I knew. And Clarissa Corwell was the head coach there at the time, who's now the head coach at Penn State. She was a friend of mine, and she had a position open, and I asked her about it, and she was like, "Yeah, come on, let's do this." And I ended up going up there. And Clarissa is one of the best coaches out there from a head coaching standpoint. She's got a big heart for her girls, but she is the most competitive person I know too. Like we would play racquetball, play basketball, whatever we did. If she didn't win, oh man, it was not good. And especially, and that was like the identity of the team. We were good and we were really competitive because she, her standard was we are not going to be this. We're going to be this right here, and we're not going to accept anything else but this. And her detail, like her attention to detail in every little thing, is something that I still strive to do, is still to have that, her just insane attention to detail. And just like everything about my experience there with her was awesome. And it definitely set me up for success to be able the best head coach I could be at UMBC now.
Of course, what was that like coming to UMBC to become the next head coach there?
Yeah, it was definitely a blessing. When you're an assistant, there's only so many jobs that come open every summer. So, I interviewed several of them and I finished second for actually a couple. And then UMBC, when they called me and they said they're offering me a job, I was more excited than I have ever been in my life as far as, professionally. I saw in this place that even though they have not had a lot of success, like they had only won like 12 games a year before, they haven't had a lot of success in the last decade. And I just saw that they're on the doorstep. There's things that need to be fixed. Like we still need a lot of like some facility work and a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But like there's a sleeping giant of a program, a small mid-major program right here that in a great area of the country, like the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, there's a ton of great softball. And UMBC as a school is one of the top academic schools out here, besides outside the Ivy League. Of course, we can't compete with the Ivy League from an academic standpoint, but as far as like, a mid-major, like the academics that they have, it's an honors college and everything. It's like all these ingredients were there for success. And I knew like this is it. This is the school I know that I'm supposed to be at, and be able to get this job and come in and just hit the ground running with the team that was there. Like our first team meeting, like we didn't really talk about like past history, but I just told them like, I'm looking at your stats, I'm looking at your scores and everything. Like if you guys give this much more, you guys are going to be super successful because y'all are so close all last year to winning 10, 12, 15 more games. You're right on the doorstep of being one of the best teams in this conference. And despite like, starting out the gate, struggling a little bit that spring, a little, and everything, we played really well in some games, and then we did not play very well in some games. Just that up and down, like a new head coach, new program, everything had. But like by the end, I just kept telling them like, guys, you're right there, you're right there, you're right there, you're right there. Just keep seeing that, keep pressing, keep busting down that door. And right at the end of the year, it's when they finally saw it and ran through that door, and it took us into the conference tournament to win that first championship since joining the America East Conference. That was one of the most humbling and the most just soul-filling things I've ever been through, was being that first year there. And I was doing it by myself. Didn't have an assistant coach. I had a former player who had just graduated, was able to come back and come help me in the spring, like with practices and coach first base and everything. And she ended up staying on staff for the next year. Unfortunately, it was the COVID year, but the next year after that. But a lot of the stuff I was doing was on my own, and it was just a lot of growth, a lot of learning, and just some of the best, the best year of coaching I've ever had.
Of course, what was that like, obviously rebuilding that culture and making it into a winning culture to then go to the conference championship?
Yeah. It really, like, the girls were just dying for someone to believe in them, and just to show them that they're more than just softball players. They're human beings. They're students, and their daughters and their girlfriends. They wanted just to feel that someone cared about them. And the first things we did, like I did when I got here, was like I met with every single one of them. We talked about their family, talked about what they want to do with their future when they grow up and graduate from college, and talk to them about like, hey, it's okay to not be all right at practice today. If you need take a mental break, hey, just talk to me. You can go, like, if you need to like do something extra for class, come talk to me about it. Like if like you are not feeling up to it today, hey, let me know. Like just come and talk to me, communicate with me. We'll figure some things out. And I think just showing them that they're cared more than just who they are as softball players really changed their whole perspective on everything. And we just talked a ton about like just look in the locker room. It's like that whole nurturing, and just talking about just loving the whole person, and just just being able to enjoy each other in this small short time that you had to be in college. And like you're only this much of your whole lifespan. It's like you get to do something special, like enjoy it with each other, do things with each other outside of softball. They're going to be fun, where you get to know each other, and just learn what you can about the person next to you. Not just like, oh, well, I'm here on the field and I got to throw a ball over to Sally, every single day. And like, oh, she's behind me, or I got to compete with her, and this and this. Like, no, get to know each other as human beings. Like, so we set up like these themes, like retriever dates, and we would do like they would get together and do like dinners at their house and movie nights and all this stuff. And, it really lifted their spirits and really changed their perspective on who they wanted to be and where they thought this program could go. And they really ran on and they took it and ran with it.
As a head coach, what was the first feeling like getting to go onto the softball field and getting that first win?
As a head coach, oh man, that was a long time ago. It was funny. My first year at Belmont, we went down to South Alabama, and we lost all 5 games. So it was until the second weekend of my term as the head coach there. We were Southern Miss, and we played. I'll never forget. We were playing Central Arkansas, and a friend of mine was the head coach there. So I got my first win against a buddy of mine, and it was awesome. Like when we got done with that game, the girls gave me the game ball. They all signed it, wrote, "Hey, congrats on the first win." It's still back there on that counter right there. It was amazing. Like, and just being on the verge of 200 career wins now, and doing it where I'm at right now is awesome. It's the win. Like just seeing how like growing this program and winning with the people that I have is what really matters. Like the wins come because we know we are doing whatever it takes to do everything right off the field and in the locker room. The wins come because of that. And if I had to sit there and holler and bark and constantly have to get on the kids and this and this, I wouldn't be here anymore, because it would just not be. That's not me. Like I want to be goofy. Like we're gonna be serious. We're gonna compete. We're gonna win. But I'm a goofy person. I'm a laid back person. Like I want to have fun. Like I'm the most immature 46-year-old person you're ever going to meet. Like I want to have fun, just as much fun with them as they want to have in the game, because I love what I do and I love being around these people all the time. And I think that's why and to me, we have a lot of great talent, but we beat people who are more talented because we truly love and respect and care for the people around us and want to go to war with them every single day.
What was that feeling like the first time you got to UMBC and you got to step on that softball field as a head coach?
There, it was very, like, again, it was a humbling experience. Like to go into a new program and just, having to, work with new people and all these young women and everything, and talk to them about like, hey, what their goals and dreams and all this stuff was. To be able to, that first day stepping on the field, I walked out to the plate and there was no one out there. It was nice and quiet, in the morning and everything. And I had my car loaded up with all my stuff, that I was needing to bring in the office and everything. I just, sat on that field, looked around like, you know what, this is going to be, I just had this great feeling of peace and like knew this is exactly where I need to be at, and knew we're going to do good things here. And I'm not saying that's what, in the future we've won a lot of games here and won a lot of championships here so far, but I just knew from the very beginning that this was going to be something special. And it's been so far, it's just, this is my year 5. This has been, despite the winning, this has been the most fun, the most soul-filling experience I've had as a head coach, is being the head coach at this school.
Of course, what has that been like, obviously taking your team to the championship and to the conference championship?
Again, it's hard to explain how gratifying it is to see your girls win, to see that this team succeed, and to see the joy on their face when they accomplish something that they start in August every year. And all, like, seeing them, go through like injuries and struggles with class or successes with class, and like seeing, like, maybe like we've had a lot of our girls had some personal family issues, like parents passing away or grandparents passing away during my time here so far. And just see them go through all these things and the turmoil they may have off the field sometimes, but just to see them grow together on the field and see them accomplish something great it's hard to explain. It really is. I get emotional thinking about it, because I think back to the last 3 that we've won, the regular season championships, the conference tournament championships. I think back at all of them, and all of them were different and felt different, and all were special in their own different way. And it's just hard to really, explain how gratifying that is to see that for them. Like of course it's great for us as coaches. We want to win. We're competitors, and we want to beat everybody's butt as much as we can and run up the score and like just win every single game that we can and win as many championships as we can. But it's never about us. It's always about them. And just, be able to like this last one, especially when winning it at Binghamton, I got to sit back with my coaching staff first and just see them run out in the field, the girls run on the field and like jump the railing and all this stuff. And they get out to the middle of the field and everything. We were able to sit back and watch that first before we actually congratulated each other. And because we were like, this is what it's about. This is amazing. And just, we know what all these young women individually had to go through just to get to that point. And like, we honestly, maybe at some points in the year, we didn't think we were going to get there. We were not, maybe not having as much success or winning like we were, like everything. But, when it came down to, it's time when we call winning time, but at the end of the year, we call it winning time. We want to be peaking at that time. And every single year they all come together and they do it. And because they know that we may not be as talented as some people, but we're going to out heart everybody and out hustle everybody on that field. And seeing them get to that point and accomplishing that is always, it'll never get old. Getting, designing championship rings will never get old, and all these things these things will never get old.
Can you talk about, of course, building that championship culture and what that has been like?
It's, it kind of like everything I've talked about so far. It's like a lot of these things, it's like you focus first on the human being, like who they are, focus them on the student, and then focusing on them as a softball player. Like you do all these steps, then your culture, what everything inside of you, the locker room and everything, you kind of like try to mold that as much as you can. And when people are buying in and like respecting what you're trying to accomplish, you're going to have a winning program. It doesn't, you're going to may not have as much talent or this and this and this, but when you accomplish great things with these kids as human beings first, you're going to have success. And just talking to them constantly about like, look, winning, like I said earlier, winning in the locker room with the talent that we have, we'll do great things on the field. That will come, but it will not be as gratifying, nor will we win like we want to if you don't win in the locker room, if you don't win with people. And, be able for them to buy into that and run with that and just have this great chemistry on the field and in the locker room and off the field and everything. And again, that's what leads to success for us. That what leads to winning. We will never have the most talented, team on the field most of the time, but we're going to compete. We're going to have a chance to win every single game because of those kids, because of what they do outside the locker room, on top of what they do on the field and all the hard work they put in on the field.
What does the recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes looking to play collegiate softball?
The recruiting process, it's getting harder and harder every single year. It's like, they put in, we're getting all these new rules and everything, potentially a lot of different things changing up. But like for us, we may not have the big budgets like other school has, but we do a really good job of like centering around this region and pulling a lot of top talent from this region to UMBC. And a lot of this starts for these young ladies, like identifying who we are as a program and just reaching out to us through email, be able to see a lot of them we see at camps, and we get them to come to our camps and everything, and learn about how we do things on a day in, day out basis, and be able to be around our coaches, be around our players, and then go from there. But like, with the transfer portal coming in now, it seems like the recruiting rules may start trying to maybe slide around, the recruiting calendar may slide around a little bit, maybe in the future. Those things are, for the high school kids, are going to get tougher and tougher. It's like, it's just important for these young women to realize that D1 is great, but it ain't the end all be all. Like, some of the best talent I've seen and some of the best coaches I know are at Division II or at Division III. There's a lot of great NAIA programs down there. I've helped several NAIA programs, even one down in Florida here recently with players, trying to move, help kids find places or find the right fit. There's a fit and there's a program out there for everyone. And I know everyone wants to play D1. It's fun to play D1, and I've been at D1 my whole career, but there's a lot of great programs out there for everybody. You have just to do your research, put in the due time. It costs money and all these things, but you're going to find the right fit. And I really believe that you put the work and effort in, you're going to end up where you're supposed to end up.
What do you look at in those prospective student athletes as a head coach?
Well, of course, first thing you got when you walk up to a field or a camp, obviously the first thing that stands out is the talent. You got to like you're looking for a certain thing, like maybe you're looking for third baseman, a pitcher, catcher, or whatever, speed, power, whatever. Something's got to stand out. The kids got to stand out above the crowd because there's thousands of kids out there. Um, the first one to stand out, like that's got to stand out. The talents aspect's got to stand out first. The second one, honestly, as soon as I see a kid I like, I hopefully most of the time on these travel teams have like their GPAs, test scores, whatever written on there, and they got to have the grades. Like I won't really recruit anybody that's below a 3.5 GPA, just because of the type of school we have here. And test scores are now optional, but I still like to see test scores because that just kind of gives me an idea how I think you potentially could do here, just from a historical standpoint. And then after that, I sit there, especially if I'm really interested in a kid. We watch them multiple times. I watch them running on the field, off the field, watch them in the dugout after they may have had a bad at bat. I'd figure out who their parents are in the stands, and are they the type of parents hollering at the umpire and blaming the umpire, or hollering at the coach? Are they carrying their kids, equipment all the time? All this and all that, because we're looking for kids that, yeah, they're talented, but they got to be able to like have UMBC grades and be able to be successful here academically. But we're looking for that blue collar, hardworking, nose to the grind kind of kid to come here and to work with us. And so we put a lot of time and effort and research into every single kid that we recruit to make sure we're getting the right kids going to fit not only my personality, but the personality of my coaching staff, and the personality and the culture of our team. And we've turned down and actually X'd off a lot of talented kids who could have been game changers here because, maybe they had a bad at bat and they threw a bat down or threw a helmet down, or, they're the type of, maybe their parents were always carrying their bags for them, or their parents were screaming at a coach from the stands. We figured out who they were. We taken a lot of kids off that list because just the little things like that, who we know that are not going to be a fit in our program.
Of course, after the official visit, when they commit, what is that feeling like as a head coach, getting to see them put on that jersey for the first time as a freshman?
It's really cool. Yeah, it's really cool. The freshmen this year that we have, being able to see them put on a UMBC uniform for the first time this fall was a cool experience, because it's been like that was this year's recruiting class was really the first post. No, actually, we recruited them during COVID. And so the challenges surrounding that and just the amount of time we had to put in from a video standpoint, because we were having to do a lot of recruiting on video, and then, seeing them before COVID hit, and then most of the time that we're recruiting them during that big window from junior to senior year, and then like getting be able to finally see them again and everything afterwards. We put a lot of time and effort into that class and had to come up with like a whole new way to recruit because of COVID, and be able to see them and put on that uniform the first time, and like just the pride that they put in and the smiles that they had was awesome. It really was that. And it's like that every single year. It's really cool to see the new freshmen when they put on that uniform for the first time to step on a ball field as a college athlete, student athlete is really, really cool.
What is that feeling like as a head coach, seeing them put it on for the last time as a senior?
Sad. Really is. It's really sad because you spend so much time with them. Like I spend way more time with these women than I do with my own kids. And just because you invest so much into them and so much into what you do, and they invest so much into this program and everything, and their school work and everything. And just to see, knowing that one door's closing in their life, and like a part of their life it's sad, because you want to be around these people as long as you can and be a part of their life as long as you can, and like see them every single day. But you also know you have a lot of pride because you know their journey and how, everything they had accomplished to get there, and just knowing like another amazing door is opening for each and every single one of them right after they take this uniform off for the last time, and they're going to for an amazing future that they're about to have because of what they accomplished as a student athlete at this university.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing your players go on to the professional, whether it's Athletes Unlimited, the MPF, or even overseas, or even to the Olympic team?
Well, I hadn't had any of them do that just yet. We to go to the professional side of things just yet, or on the Olympic team. But we've had several who are right now competing, trying to get onto the junior Olympic team. So we have a lot of them that, especially the younger like kids that are committed to us that were juniors, are gone to like some of the training camps and all that kind of stuff. So that's really cool to see that you know, they have a shot at potentially putting on that uniform, and seeing them wear the USA across their chest and their pictures and everything is really cool. And, it's something they take a lot of pride in, wanting to hopefully compete for their country one of these days. But, because we haven't anybody get drafted necessarily yet by the professional teams like AU or the new program, the new women's professional league that's come out that Chamberlain started. We haven't had anybody necessarily get drafted by them just yet, um, but I tell you what, like when we do one of these days that we do, because we have several kids are going to have an opportunity here in the next couple of years. It's going to be really cool to see, because we've already talked like several times about like how they want to represent not only themselves, but they want to represent the university, like their program and their team at that professional level as well. And it's going to be really cool to see one day, because I think we're going to have the shot at least one, if not two or three, have a shot at playing professionally here pretty soon.
What are some of your future plans moving forward for the program?
Continue winning. Winning championships never gets old, and accomplishing with these women never gets old. And a lot of there's a lot of things we want to see with this program. Like from a day-to-day basis, we need better facilities. We need some like training areas. We have a lot of plans that we want to try to put in place to start renovating some of that to help us, kind of be more up to par with programs that are more on our level and everything. And some of just the day-to-day stuff from a budgetary standpoint and all that. Of course, obviously everyone needs more money for everything. But what I want, like for me, we talk about is not only winning championships, like winning the regular season or winning the conference tournament championship or whatever, but it's like we've done that now for 3 years. It's time to go to another level. We need to step up and win games at regionals. Like we've come close the last couple of years. We've come very close. We just could not just break through that door just yet. So we need to win. We need to win games at regionals. We need to give us a chance to get to Championship Sunday to compete against whoever's there to have a shot to go to Super Regionals. And maybe once we get to Super Regionals, it's the best 2 out of 3. You just never know what's going to happen. And like getting to the College World Series, it's a pipe dream potentially. Like a program of our size doesn't get to the College World Series. Like they don't get the Super Regionals very often at all. But we have I think like this year and like in the next coming years, we have the kids to, if we can be playing our best ball again and get a couple breaks at regionals. Like we put ourselves in position to win 2 games of regionals, and we just couldn't break through, couldn't get a clutch hit. We get these clutch hits now. We make one more play. We make, we're going to start winning games at regionals. And I think they understand that, and they see that, and they know that, if we're blessed to win this conference championship again, because we have a great conference. The America East is very hard to get through, and we have a lot of great coaches, a lot of great players, a lot of great teams in this conference. It's a very underrated softball conference nationally. But that's our goal for the future. It's like we need to start making noise in the postseason, and that's kind of the one thing that we're focusing on, talking about now, not just winning the conference championship. Like we win it again, if we're blessed enough to do it and we accomplish that goal, it's time to step up and win at regionals and have a shot at getting the supers.
What advice would you give those incoming freshmen looking to get started in playing in collegiate softball?
Can you say that one more time? I'm sorry.
What advice would you give those incoming freshmen looking to get started in playing in collegiate softball?
Just to know that it's going to be like a heavy load. It's, a lot. You got to get to every class. College is hard. Like college classes are hard. You have a lot of stuff you got to do and everything on top of like your day-to-day stuff with softball and like the training room and having to go to the study hall and still find time to eat and like have a little bit of a social life and everything. It's pretty daunting for a freshman. But it's also going to be the most rewarding time of your life. But my best advice for them is just like enjoy it and take a deep breath when you get in, like knowing that this is like going to be pretty tough from the very beginning, but you're going to make sure you rely on your teammates like that have been there and have gone through it. Rely on your teammates, constantly talk to them and trust in their advice, and just don't let it overwhelm you, and just sit back and take everything day by day, hour by hour, and just sit back and enjoy it, because it really is going to be, when they get there as freshmen, you're going to blink and it's going to be over. So take the time and really just sit back and take a deep breath and enjoy the time that you have there, because like you can ask the seniors that just left this past year. One of them I was talking to right before Christmas, and we were both amazed that she's now, gone and working in a private sector with the military. And it just really seemed like we blink and she was a freshman, and now she's like making as much money as I do in the private sector, just a year out of college. But yeah, that's the best advice I can give them. It's like, just really sit back and enjoy it, trust your teammates, and enjoy the people you're with.
What advice would you give those people that are looking to go play professionally, whether it's Athletes Unlimited in the MPF or even nationally?
Um, it's going to take more work than what you're doing on the softball field currently. That's for sure. The elite of the elite, all they do is live, breathe, and eat softball. They have the right diet, they have the right training, from a weight room standpoint and from a conditioning standpoint, and they practice all the time. So, like as a collegiate athlete, you're getting a ton of practice, you're getting a ton of work, you're with amazing coaches, you're with great strength coaches. You have to put in more time than what you're putting in. It takes, you know, time at 8 o'clock at night when you just get done eating and just maybe study for a little while. It takes time. You're going to have to take time to go get out there, get on a tee, or go to the bullpen and throw into the 9 hole. All these things. If that's a goal you have and to accomplish, there's a lot more you have to sacrifice to make that goal. And the couple of kids that I think, that our program that have a shot at it, those are the type of kids that you see wanting to do extra all the time. And like, even though we can't do things with them like that because of like NCAA rules and hours restrictions and all these things, they're getting together and doing it on their own, and they're bringing their teammates with them and everything. And they're, leaders in our program and stuff. And it takes a lot of dedication, a lot of work, but thankfully, like the Athletes Unlimited, the WPF, have really opened a lot more doors for these, awesome collegiate athletes to continue playing the game that they love. Because for a while it was just a national team, and maybe it's just a couple of teams who was just the elite of the elite can only play for. But now with these two programs, these two different, professional programs out there, the doors open for a lot of the really good mid-major kids to go play professionally now, which is what makes me excited, because there's a lot of deserving kids who won't necessarily be a lot of money, but like deserve that chance, who the door wasn't open to them, and now it is.
What advice would you give those future head coaches that are looking to get started and build their own softball program?
It's going to take a lot of like time, blood, sweat, and tears. But if this is what the life that you want, really starts with knowing you're going to have to sacrifice a lot at the very beginning. Like, I was a student manager for 3 years. I was a volunteer coach for 3 years, making zero money and having to work extra jobs and lessons and camps and all that stuff just to support myself and my wife at the time. And it's going to, take that, and then you're going to have to really just get to know the people around you and really study the game and study and really open yourself up to talking to other coaches, and not be shy to talk to other coaches, and really absorb in what they're saying, and find the right people to like build a network with, and surround yourself with good people in your in your small little softball clan, who are all maybe on the like-minded type of people who are already at that level or trying to get to that level. And just don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone and like take on and go on this kind of a journey, because this is a great life. I'm not gonna lie, I love what I do, and I have been blessed to been doing this since 1996 as a 19-year-old snot-nosed college student who didn't get a chance to play baseball in college like I thought I was, and don't regret it for a day, because this is one of the coolest lives you can have. I have one of the coolest jobs. I get to coach and be around awesome women every day. I've got great coaches I could be around. And it's just, I cannot say enough about how much I love what I do and the passion I have for it, and just in how much fun I have what I do when what I do every single day. I enjoy coming here, and I don't necessarily like being in the office all the time. I'd rather be out in the field doing stuff, even if it's field work. But just it's an amazing life. It requires so much of your time. It requires sacrifices, but in the end, it's all worth it. And you will take a lot of pride in your journey if you stick with it.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the program app?
Sure. So I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Kuhlmeyer. That's Kuhlmeyer. I know it's a hard last name to spell and say, on both of those platforms. And then our softball on both Instagram, TikTok, Twitter is also at UMBC Softball.
Thank you again, Coach Chris Kuhlmeyer, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with the UMBC softball program.
Yeah, Brandon, thanks for having me on, man. This has been great. I enjoy this so much and love to come on again sometime.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Chris Kuhlmeyer, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
All right, thank you, bud. Have a good one.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.